Hello and welcome to the Human Side of Real Estate podcast. My name is Mark Toomey. I'm Managing Director of Tara HRC, which is a boutique real estate headhunter based in Warsaw, Poland. My guest today is Natalia Sobecka. Natalia has been working in real estate since 2008. She has previously worked for JLL, CBRE, Unibail Redamco and Rituals. And last year, Natalia took a year-long career break and is now back offering her expertise as a retail advisor, yoga and well-being guide, and an alcohol-free coach. So welcome, Natalia. Great to see you. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me. It's a funny combination, to be a real estate advisor and then also a, alcohol-free coach. It sounds very strange when you put it all together in one sentence.
Well, see, this is the thing. And it was this term, alcohol-free coach, that really sparked my interest in you, because when I saw this, and you may think that, an alcohol-free coach and real estate advisor doesn't go well together, but as you will find out when we get into this, they're actually quite well suited. So this term alcohol-free coach, I hadn't heard it before. So can you tell me how somebody becomes an alcohol-free coach and why you decided to become an alcohol-free coach?
So probably, as most of the people will expect, the reason why I went into this career is because I had myself some issues with alcohol. And my journey brought me to the situation where I dealt with it, thanks to the coach. And I thought, okay, if it helped me, maybe I can help other people. I basically had ups and downs with alcohol, and probably it is not what you would expect. It's not a rock bottom story that people expect when you start looking at your relationship with alcohol. It was basically, Mark, that I noticed that alcohol started to impact my life in a quite a big way. So it started managing my life instead of the other way around. I started drinking very late because I started drinking when I was 20, which is strange because people try when they are teenagers. I started at university, and at the beginning, how it all starts, I started drinking socially at parties. And then, of course, when I started in real estate industry, as you said, 2008, these were the times when, parties were all full of alcohol. It changes now a little bit, but back then, I don't even think you could not be successful, but be connected with your colleagues or managers or friends from the industry if you didn't drink. So it started socially, and then because my job expected me to travel a lot and be alone a lot. And I moved to Paris in 2015. And then the drinking became drinking alone. So it was helping me to manage the stress. I started to see that I need to drink in order to fall asleep. So I was still a very high functioning person. And I think I didn't understand how much it impacts my well-being and my emotions and my health. So I was doing it because I thought that it was actually helping me. And then I moved to the Netherlands. It got even worse in the way that I didn't know any other way to just let go and stop, because I was always very go, go, go person, like most of the people in our industry, to be honest. And I finally I had a burnout. And then I had enough time to look into my life and think, okay, what's happening there, why it happened. And I think alcohol was one of the reasons why I reached burnout, because I was numbing through alcohol the issues that were happening around me. I mean, I was in a job that maybe didn't give me as much fulfillment as I would like to. Maybe it didn't align with my values. And I'm not talking about real estate job, just the specific job that I was doing back then. And I was just ignoring it because I was drinking over it. And it was not live, it was kind of vegetation. So alcohol was not a reason of a burnout, but I'm not sure if alcohol would not be there, that I would push myself to go into a burnout, to experience something like this. And then after this, I burnout, trying to think why, tried therapy, Ayurveda, all different well-being practices. I did one even, no beer that also. There are different kind of online programs that you can do where they walk you through addiction and, how to deal with it. And they kind of coach you, but not personal coaching. It's more you getting emails and some direction. So I did this and this Naked Mind. If you look online, there's a lot of options for people right now. I even tried AA, but it didn't really work for me because and I know it helps to a lot of people, but my problem is I wanted to be in control, kind of, and in AA, you just need to kind of admit that you're not. And it was something that didn't align with me. And then I found my coach, Carolina. It was funny because she was located in US, but she was half Polish. So we connected very much closely. And she did 4 months with me of coaching. And then after that, it didn't mean that I stopped drinking, but it kind of helped me to look into my relationship with alcohol in a more mindful way. And as you said, after that, we did a break with my husband. We were able to do it. So we went to Sri Lanka. I didn't drink there at all. And I was working on myself still more. I did this coaching program for coaches of different kind. But this alcohol-free was the one that I think I can give back the most when I work with people. And I did the science of well-being and I did the yin yoga practice training. And I combined all of this and thought, okay, let me try to help other people that have the same problem that I have. So people who maybe are not seen as somebody who, they're still very productive and they are still managing, but they feel in their gut that alcohol maybe is not the best for them.
I think that's probably where a lot of denial comes from, because of people feel, look, I don't have an issue with drink. I don't wake up in the morning. I don't feel like, I don't wake up in the morning and feel like I need to have a drink. I can go all week without having a drink, and I think, so it, if, there's different types of I suppose categorizations, and I think there's a lot of confusion out there as to, okay, if you wake up in the morning and you feel that you need to have a drink, then you're an alcoholic. If you don't feel you need to have a drink in the morning, you're not an alcoholic. So if you're not an alcoholic but you're still drinking way too much, and you're a high functioning person, but you're still drinking way too much, then is it a problem? Maybe a little bit of a problem, so there's a lot of confusion out there, and I kind of went through a lot of this myself, particularly over the last 5 years, and a kind of similar journey to you. So let me tell you about my history with alcohol, and let's see how that resonates. And I'm curious to see, as you as a coach now, to see how this kind of fits in. So obviously I'm Irish, and so what I'm about to say now, this applies to, I will categorize the British Isles, the Irish and the British, as being quite similar in this, and it very much revolves around the pub culture. And the pub culture is very much ingrained into many of us from a very young age. So much of our social life revolves around the pub. So meeting your friends, meeting your family, most celebrations, even the Sunday lunch, it all happens at the pub. So the pub is often the focal point of our lives for a very long time, from a very young age. And I think we, as in British and Irish, I think we are a bit unique in that way compared to other European cultures. And to be honest with you, I love that social aspect to it, and I still do, and every time I go back to Ireland, I do enjoy it, because you don't get that same familiar, homely feeling here in a bar in Warsaw than you do in your local country pub, where your friends, your family, your neighbours, everybody's there, so, however, when I was younger, it was hard to go to a pub and not drink. And if you didn't take a drink, you could be seen as a bit antisocial, not cool, maybe even a bit strange. So as a young person, that's not a label that you want to have. So when I moved to Central Europe, I moved to Prague, Czech Republic first when I was 22. So that's almost 24 years ago. So when I moved to Central Europe 24 years ago, I was using alcohol as a way of making new friends, of fitting in, I was basically trying to transplant my cultural way of being to a new country. But now I was mixing with other cultures and people who had a healthy respect for alcohol and people who weren't brought up in this pub culture. And these were people who came out on a Friday evening or a Saturday evening and had a few drinks and went home, and they drank on occasions. And so, but these people were unfamiliar to me. So was Central Europe, and I naively thought the more time I spend in the bar getting to know these people, the more familiar they'd be to me, the sooner I would feel at home. I was kind of searching for that, familiar feeling in a different culture, in a different environment. And I unwittingly played into the stereotype of an Irish drinker, which is something that we Irish really hate having. It is a stereotype, but I did play into that, and that's when I started to really develop an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, and really started to dislike the person I became under the influence of alcohol. Now, that said, I was never like a nasty person or a violent person with alcohol, but there were plenty of occasions when I would have said something that I regretted the next day. And I would live with that anxiety and shame for like days or even weeks, replaying this situation and like, oh, why did I say that? Why did I do that? But I would keep going back to the pub because it was the only social life I knew back then. And I never had the confidence to go to the pub and not drink. So this was in my 20s. This is like my mid-late 20s.
And it was Czech Republic, right? So
there was Czech Republic first, and then I moved to Poland when I was 26. So it became a vicious circle of that was the only life I had for a couple of years in my 20s. And it ultimately led to me slipping into depression for 3 years. And for most of those 3 years, I didn't even realize that I had it. And somehow, in the midst of all of this, I met my would-be wife, and she pulled me out of it. And I stopped drinking for 18 months. At that time, I finally realized that it wasn't a rock bottom problem as you described. It was just, it just became a kind of a never ending vicious circle. And as I said, it was getting worse and getting worse and getting worse. And I don't know, is depression rock bottom? I don't know. But again, I never felt like I was an alcoholic. I never felt a need to have a drink. I felt a need to go and socialize. And while I was socializing, I felt I couldn't do that without having a drink. So I finally, so I was when that happened, I was 32 when that happened. And I finally realized there was much more, and we had our first child.
Okay. That changes a lot.
That changes a lot. And and that was the big moment of realization for me, that there was much more to life than just going out, getting drunk, rinse, repeat every weekend. And it just, 18 months off drink, having a child, and it just changed. My whole kind of world changed in that time. So I'm 45 now, and thankfully I have a much healthier respect for alcohol. I have much more respect for my mental, my physical health. And I guess I've probably become, after almost 24 years here, I guess I have become probably more Central European and adapted to the culture that's here and as I said, I do love going back to Ireland. I do still love that culture, but I couldn't do that every day. Even if I lived in Ireland, I couldn't see myself doing that every weekend. So these days I don't really drink at all. I have 3 kids. I live in the suburbs. I only go into town for occasions, and I don't drink for 5 months of the year consciously. So I pick out 5 months throughout the year, and I say these are the months that I'm not going to drink, and that's kind of connected with my physical activities, because I want to remain, optimize myself as much as possible. And today as well, many of my friends are of the same kind of mindset, and I think that's an important thing we come to later about just kind of surrounding yourself with people of similar mindset as well. However, this does cause another problem, and again, it goes back to a drink related problem, and something that I didn't anticipate. So now when there is an occasion, and be it a kind of a personal private occasion or a business event, and I do drink, the problem I have now is I don't really know where my tolerance levels are, because I'm not drinking as much as I used to. I sometimes come off, 3 months of not drinking. I'm getting older. My body is changing. Everything is changing, so I can be half drunk after 2 beers. And then I'm still kind of liable to say something stupid that I might regret. So it's kind of so you're kind of navigating a new kind of an alcohol light world. But when you do take a drink, then it's kind of like, oh, okay, I don't know where my limits are anymore, and I don't know when I kind of fall off the edge of that. So that's basically my story. That's my whole kind of history, from the age of I don't know, 15 to 45, 30 years of alcohol. So I'm curious to know, if you were my alcohol-free coach, what advice would you give me based on what I've just told you? And are there any common themes in there that you see with your clients regarding alcohol and its impact?
So firstly, thank you so much for sharing. Even though you invited me, I feel like, okay, that's so great that there are people who want to share, because I think it changes a lot. And for being so vulnerable, it's amazing. And the story that you told, it's not only your story, that there's probably so many. You said it's similar to yours, it's just like, we more or less the same age. So we also went through more or less the same times in real estate industry, actually. So yeah, but when you were talking and I was thinking about things that are also repeated by my clients, the biggest and the one that really makes me so angry sometimes is the fact that we don't connect, or people are not aware what alcohol causes. So you become depressed or anxious or, have some mental issues, and nobody really says that maybe this is the issue of alcohol. So I don't know where you understood that maybe your depression or feeling bad or mentally down was caused by alcohol. But in my case, and a lot of my clients' case, they don't really understand that this is what causes it. You know what I mean? It's really terrifying that nobody talks about it. I remember I went the first time to a doctor, to my GP, and I asked him, I told him I feel so down. And he said, okay, I will give you some pills for serotonin level increase in your brain. But nobody said, okay, but maybe it's because you're drinking, and that's why, your chemicals in your brain are going crazy. You cannot produce dopamine as much as you should. And this was not there. So that's the first common theme, that people drink and then they become sadder and sadder and sadder, but they don't connect those two. So I don't know, when you became, you said depressed, but you didn't even know that it was. Did you think that it could be connected with alcohol, or you thought this is just you, or how you are?
No, absolutely not. Yeah. And because I've always seen alcohol as people drink when they're happy and people drink when they're sad.
Always. There's always like celebration or sadness or stress. Alcohol helps with everything.
So I was feeling sad, so I drank more. Yeah. Because I naively thought that it would make me less sad. And maybe it did what it did was it numbed the
emotions
sadness.
And feelings. Yeah. It numbs both.
Yeah.
So the problem is that it numbs the negative, yes, but it also numbs the positive,
Yeah.
right? So,
but then you wake up the next day and with a massive hangover and you've can be a Monday morning and you don't want to get out of bed and you have to start it all over again and you're just thinking,
And people don't know that this is it. So they think, okay, something is wrong with me. So then they drink to make themselves feel better. And it's like you said, it's a vicious circle. Yeah. So that's the first thing. People who call me, they're like, okay, I don't feel good. It's really bad. And I say to them, why? Because the long use of alcohol basically makes it impossible for you to be happy about things that normally you would be happy about. So, hugging your child or playing with your dog or going for a walk, it does not produce enough dopamine level to actually make you feel good. The only thing that does is alcohol. So awfully after a while of not drinking, you can start feeling good about other things. So that's normal that you get depressed or sad. The second thing, what you were saying, that you said something and then the next day you felt so bad and probably you felt the shame and this is what also people are mad at themselves that they are drinking. So my clients are calling me like, why did I do it? I'm so horrible. I'm so weak. And at the end of the day, it's not them, it's the substance. I mean, it's a normal reaction of our brain and our body when we become addicted to that substance, which is an addictive substance. So the reason why you were drinking, even though you didn't want to, was not really that your strong will was not strong enough. There is processes that are happening in your brain that let you go for that drink. And I'm not saying you're not responsible for making that decision, but there's a reason why we do that. So that was the second thing that when you were talking, that it's so painful for people when they call me, that they really feel so much shame and they feel so bad about themselves that they cannot kind of fight it. They cannot stop So that's the second.
Do you think there's, and something I mentioned, because you mentioned that, our stories can be quite similar and a lot of people listening to this may have a similar story. But from your experience, then, what are the main differences between the impact of alcohol on men versus women?
So there is couple. First one is that we as women have less enzyme that actually breaks down alcohol, which means that we keep alcohol in a form of alcohol in our body longer. So it's more dangerous when it comes to diseases. So liver disease or heart disease, we are more prone to that because of the fact that we cannot deal with alcohol. Our body doesn't have that much of an enzyme like yours. And for men, on the other hand, you guys can handle alcohol very well, so you can drink more. And the fact that you drink more, you can get addicted faster. So that's kind of physical difference. And again, we're generalizing now because it is possible that there are some women that can, But also what is very important is women are more willing to say that they have a problem. So in my coaching, I see 90% of women. Women are the ones who are looking for help. Men are the strong ones that say, okay, I don't have a problem. And again, it's a generalization, but that's how it is. Women are more willing to say, okay, I feel something is wrong. Men are saying, okay, I will deal with it myself, or they don't want to admit that they have a problem. And it's really something that I can see. It's numbers. Because when I did my coaching training, we had literally 29 women and 1 man. So there is a reason why this also happens.
Yeah, and it's probably a combination. Men, I would imagine, it's a combination of either ignorance, machoism.
Yes, you should be the ones who are strong. You will not show.
Or a very kind of typical stubbornness that men have, as in, I will deal with this myself in my own time, in my own way. Yes. Rather than asking somebody for help. And I think that
women are allowed to be weak. I mean, new generation and how you raise new women, younger women and younger men, it's different. But our times, it was still, and our parents' times, Mark, women were the ones who were allowed to be weak and men were the ones who were allowed to be strong. And that's also how this culture, and women didn't drink. Women started drinking maybe 20 years ago in a way that is acceptable. Like before it was not ladylike.
Well,
drink,
even
right?
you can go into old pubs in Dublin, and they have they have a little section where it was like the women only section. The women weren't allowed in the bar.
I
And they're
didn't
still
know
there.
that,
It's
really?
like a touristy. Yeah. So it's like a touristy thing now where some of the bars, they would have like a little section in the front
Yeah.
of the bar
Yeah.
where the women could go in if they were waiting for their husband to finish his drinks and come home.
Yes.
They would have a little section where they could sit and wait at the front of the bar. And but they weren't allowed in the back of the bar.
So now we have even a mommy wine culture. No?
Yeah,
It's also, it's more acceptable. So that's the main differences, I think. But yeah, for me, women are most of my clients because they are just more open. Maybe because I'm a woman as well. But there are men coaches, of course, So maybe men prefer to go to a man. That's also something completely normal.
So listen, let's move on, and because I want, we're both people who work in the real estate industry,
Yes.
and I really wanted to kind of get into this because I feel that this is the elephant in the room at the moment, and it's something that's not really being discussed. And that is the epidemic of alcohol in the real estate industry. Now, as we both know, and you might touched on it earlier, the real estate is a very sociable industry. And I can't think of many other industries where there are so many social events in their calendars. So you have the awards events, the networking events, the conferences, you have MIPIM, you have MAPIC, you have Expo, you have company anniversaries, agency events, lawyers' parties, Christmas parties. It goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And I really thought, like, pre-pandemic, I thought, it felt like there was something on every single week. And so there is so much alcohol in real estate, and many working in real estate feel obligated to attend some or all of these events. And I don't think the industry realizes just how much damage it has been doing to its own people. Now, similar to you, I've been working in the real estate industry in Poland for almost 20 years. And in some ways, I feel it's still the same today as it was 20 years ago. Events and alcohol are central to socializing in the industry. So the other thing is, we have lost people in the industry to alcohol-related deaths and diseases. I personally have lost a very good friend to an alcohol-related death, and it shocked me to my core because this was a young person, and it was a big wake-up call for me. So one thing I wanted to ask you, and again, just leveraging on your coaching experience and your experience with from the real estate industry, is how do you think real estate professionals can navigate social events while maintaining a healthy well-being in today's environment?
It's a great question. It's also, when you think about it, it's such a strange question because they shouldn't have to navigate. You know what I mean? So it's a good question. It's a right question, but we shouldn't even have to ask that question. They should be as people who drink. You don't ask how the people who drink need to navigate, how the people who don't want to drink need to navigate. So it's a strange world that we live in sometimes when you think about it. But there is ways. I've never had a problem with social drinking, so I was drinking by myself. But I have a lot of clients that have that, not only from that industry, but from others as well. And there are three main things that I always say. So firstly, you need to make decision that you're not drinking before you go somewhere. So don't question what you will do or don't think about it. You just make a decision before you leave that you're not drinking. And that is the decision that you in your mind have to put in a way of, there is no negotiations. Yeah. I mean, I'm not drinking today, that's it. So that helps.
Yeah, I think the worst thing you can do is go and say, well, I'm only going to have 2 drinks.
Yes, exactly. So if you really don't want to drink, don't lie to yourself, because we do. So when I'm coaching somebody before the event, especially at the beginning of their sober journey, they need to be much more cautious and mindful. So let's agree we don't drink. So that's the first that you're doing, the first thing. The second thing is, and I think we need to be more open about it, if you don't want to drink, make sure that you have other options of something that you can drink which is without alcohol. So if it's an event that your company is organizing, ask for that. I mean, you can have the right. Nobody should ask you. We need to be more open about it. Okay, I'm going tomorrow. We have Christmas party. What kind of drinks do you have? Beers 0%, or maybe do you have some soft drinks? I mean, I ended up at some parties where there was only wine and water, and this is like unacceptable. So do that. If it's a smaller event, bring your own. Which also, Mark, there's so much, because I've checked them, so many of them. There's so much options now, kombuchas and sparkling wines or sparkling teas or whatever, beers, 0% beers like Heineken is producing, crazy amounts in comparison to what they did a couple of years ago. So the options are there. So either make sure that they will be provided for you, which you're right. If you go to a party, they also ask you always about, what's your dietary requirements or whatever. So you have the right to say, okay, I don't drink alcohol, so what
I don't eat meat, I don't drink alcohol.
And that's okay. This is also crazy, So that's definitely it. And what I do, and that's my personal trick that helped also a lot of my clients, I plan something for the next day morning that I really want to do. So then I don't have a mindset of I'm missing out. I have a mindset, I have a very early massage, or I have a great yoga class, or I have a run, or I go with my dog to the park. So then it gives me two things. One is, I don't feel like I'm missing out of alcohol because I'm thinking about doing something better even next day morning. And second, I can say something to people, which is sometimes it's a problem. For me, it's not anymore. But for people who are just struggling with this topic right now, it's difficult to say, okay, I'm not drinking. Then they are questioned, why you're not drinking? If you say, okay, I have an early yoga at 7 tomorrow, 8 or whatever, and nobody are like, okay, fine. So I think those are there's much more tricks, but those are the three ones that I did that before, and my clients are going to.
You mentioned something earlier, or just a moment ago, about questioning why you're not drinking, and I made a post on LinkedIn recently about this, and I was astounded by the response it got. I'd never received such a response. I think it had something like 20,000 views, and I've never seen anything like that before. And I just this was also kind of the part we had started talking before that happened.
Yes.
But I told you about this, and I said I'm so many comments and but I just realized that so many people are kind of it touched so many people. Mm-hmm. One thing, I want to make it very clear is, I don't want to come at this from a position of, a holier than thou position and say, well, you shouldn't drink because it's not good for you and all that. And because I do drink, but I'm getting better at managing it. Because I remember somebody made a comment and said, well, how can you post something like that and say that you still drink, you should be alcohol free? And I said, well, I'm not telling people what you should or shouldn't do. No. I'm just saying that what you have to be aware of, you have to be conscious of your choices. Yes. And if you wish to continue to drink, that's fine. Go ahead. I have no problem with that, but just be conscious of it. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, what do you think, the companies that are sponsoring these events and sending their people to the events, and the event organizers, what do you think they could do more to help people in this kind of either alcohol free or alcohol light environment?
Yes. I mean, honestly, it's not that difficult. I think, the companies are so inclusive now, they accept what you eat. They accept the fact that you're working from home. They're very inclusive to all different needs and personalities and lifestyles. So they just need to be inclusive for people who don't drink. So they need to provide them kind of effortlessly the option to have something, the same quality to drink, so mocktails, that they provide to people who want to drink cocktails with alcohol, and it is changing. I mean, I spoke to one of my friends from Unibail, and she said last year they had a Christmas party and they had a list of drinks, and they had 3 mocktails and three cocktails. So that's the way, kind of, I was surprised, to be honest, but that's the way to go. Right. It's not that you have to, feel uncomfortable to ask for it even. It's just like, let's be inclusive, let's be accepting, and just give the same option for people who drink, that the same for people.
And again, as as you said, you have a carnivore menu, and you have a vegetarian menu.
Exactly, and that's okay. So let's do it the same.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, exactly like you, I'm not saying, let's just not provide alcohol for people during parties. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying let's accept that other people are not drinking. So let's just give the same options for both. Because nowadays still, even though I see a lot of changes, and I think I told you at MAPIC, for example, that I did the yin yoga class in the morning and people were running. So you can see that there is this, those people were not drinking till 5 o'clock in the morning, like I did at MAPIC a couple of years ago. So this also changes, and the conferences see, okay, our participants need something else. So, the more we talk about it, I think if one HR person watches it and has an idea of, oh, next time I'm doing a party, I should include people who don't drink, so maybe I can provide some possibilities, like some options, that's what they should do. So it should not be, it should become normal.
Yeah.
Not special anymore, It's
and that was a very good point you made. And when we talk about, the future of alcohol in real estate and events, and we talked about, you mentioned shifting attitudes, and this is something that I have really noticed, particularly this year and last year at events that I had attended. Yeah. And, the good news is that the younger generation of real estate professionals, the 25 to 35-year-olds, they appear to have a completely different attitude towards alcohol in general, both in their social lives and their professional lives. However, that's a decision that they are making themselves. That's not a decision that their companies are helping them make. Mm-hmm. So they're deciding that, I don't want to drink. And I've gone to events, and you will see people now, and they will have an orange juice, or will have a sparkling water, and it could be midnight, and in some ways, for me being an old dinosaur now, it feels strange, Yes. It's kind of like they're like, okay, I've done my time here, I've been here since 8 p.m, it's midnight now, and I would like to get home because I'm going to have a run in the morning. Yeah. And there's me on my my whatever glass of wine, thinking I'm never going to get up for a run in the morning. So, yes.
But this is a little bit crazy that those people change the industry, not the other way around.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, the reason why the industry changes, it's because you, me, and the young generation, and other people maybe that don't. And it's also, the thing is, I went to a Christmas, which is not an industry party, but I had a Christmas party at my husband's family, and I brought my own non-alcoholic wine. I found one red one that is good, because most of them I don't really. And people who normally were drinking, they were drinking this wine. So they were like, okay, I will take one glass of normal alcohol wine, and then I will take one of yours. And it was so surprising that if you put those options there, which is actually a healthy option and healthy choice, maybe people will drink a little bit less, which is good for their health. So just giving that option is something that the companies should do now.
No, absolutely. And, as I said, we talk about the way the younger generation are viewing alcohol, and something, we as the slightly older generation can learn from them. Mm-hmm. I think that's an important thing. Like, we don't have to, the 45 to 60-year-olds, we don't have to continue down this path, that we've been on for the last, 20 years. Every event we go to, we have, 6-7 beers or more. So there is an option for us to kind of change how we approach this. And I think that's the most important thing, most important message that I would like to get out here today, is just to say that, and again, not lecturing anybody, and not saying you should do this, and if you don't, then you're, but what I am saying is it's okay. It's okay to change. Exactly. It's okay to change, not to drink. Nobody's going to think any different of you.
And not to be judged, right? Because sometimes, it's crazy. I remember when I was in Paris till 2015 or 16, And a friend of mine was not drinking, and she was like, "Oh my God, now my boss will think I'm pregnant." And I'm like, when I think about it now, it's true because I think the guy's not drinking probably has a problem. The woman is not drinking, maybe
Well,
she's
they are the two old stereotypes, aren't they? The guy has a problem, the woman's pregnant. So
a young generation would not think that, but we still have this old kind of way of thinking. So
no, absolutely, and I think as well. In a couple of years' time, like you think, I don't know, did you ever smoke cigarettes?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay, so did I, but I gave up again when we had our first child, so that was 13 years ago. But I think the future of alcohol, not just in real estate, but the future of alcohol, I think, in the not so distant future, I can predict that alcohol will be viewed in the same light as cigarettes are viewed today. Yes. In that it's like, oh, I can't believe I used to do that. I can't believe I was lived such an unhealthy life, and I can't believe that I went out and I drank till 3 o'clock in the morning. I think young people today, the 25, 35-year-olds, I think they're already making that distinction or comparison. Alcohol to cigarettes. And like, well, it's not a nice habit. It's not something.
It's not their kind of. They say, somebody told me, some young person told me once, it's not my drug of. It was my parents' drug of choice. Yeah. That's what they are saying. So that's definitely true. And you know what is very optimistic? I mean, we didn't have replacement for cigarettes, right? Yeah, we had the whatever
patches and
or whatever, but it was not a real kind of replacement. And when it comes to alcohol, we have a lot of replacement. So in Amsterdam, we have a chain now of stores. They are called Nix and Nix. They only sell non-alcohol options. So if it's the same as our alcohol store that you would go in Warsaw, but just options of night. So it's like for somebody who doesn't drink, they can so much to choose from. So that's the good thing that cigarettes didn't have back then. So when you were stopping, you couldn't kind of find something else that would help you with this. But on the other hand, alcohol is very much connected with all the celebrations and stuff. And this is what it's kind of, you don't smoke when you're happy. Yeah, you maybe smoke when you're stressed. But it is not that you're celebrating something with it. Alcohol is connected with all the events in your life. So that will be the struggle of, of fighting with it. But I agree with you completely. I wonder how it will look in 10 years. Because when I think about how it looked with cigarettes 15 years ago, Mark, do you remember? People were smoking in the restaurants.
Yeah.
Next to you were eating. Now, when you think about it now, impossible, right? So it would be great to meet after 10 years, do this again and say, okay, so what actually changed?
Yeah, right? No, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely will be interesting and we'll see. So listen, we've covered so much today and thank you so much for coming in to see us.
I'm really happy that we could do that.
It's been brilliant, and it's definitely been, there's a lot of stuff going on there with alcohol, and as I said, it's not a problem that will be solved overnight, and I think it'll probably take a few generations for things to. But as I said, on a positive note, we're already moving in the right direction. We're already looking at the current kind of Gen Z or millennial generation and their view to alcohol. And I think us, particularly when I say us, I mean the Gen X, we need to look at that and we need to look at how they're viewing things. And
learn from them.
And learn from,
They can learn from us some stuff, but we should also be open to learn from a younger generation.
Absolutely.
Right?
I think, if anybody has the attitude that, I'm the senior here and I can't learn from a junior, then you're wrong.
Yes.
And I think anybody would see that in a professional light, and you're seeing it now with technology as well, so you've got to be open to learning from these guys and taking a leaf out of their book. So brilliant, Natalia. Thanks so much again.
Thank you so much, Mark.
And
it was great.
We'll catch up again in 10 years.
Yes, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, take care.